Welcome back, my fellow fans of the written word. Welcome back to my setting once again. Let's review The Fires of Heaven, the 5th book of Wheel of Time. Now, I would like to start with what I expected from this book before starting it. I expected this being more of a Rand's book, so to speak, because, well, the last one focused more on Perrin and in the in-between geopolitical situation with the land. So, as a consequence of it, I also expected less Perrin in this book. What I got, well, I wouldn't say that Rand's character developed a lot, but rather everyone around him developed. Nynaeve and Egwene benefited the most from this, although there was zero Perrin. I expected at least a letter from him saying, "Hey guys and gals, I saved our homeland. Also, I got married. Kisses," at least that. But let's move on to what I liked. And what I liked was plenty. I liked plenty. As an overall positive point, I appreciate the fact that there is enough space in the narrative to expand and deepen the threads that do not directly concern Rand. There's this very clearly defined rhythm to the plot. We have plots A, B, and C going on at any given moment, and it feels like clockwork. Also, I felt zero padding in this novel, at least when it came to plot. Character development notwithstanding, more about that later. But Egwene really ended on a high note for me as a character. She finally realized that she's her own person, that everyone around her changed as much as she did, if not more, especially Rand. She stood up to Nynaeve, and it felt right. And she even showed the initiative to use one power in battle, which carries all of these preconceived rules and taboos against it, but she went through it on her own. That's how you develop a character. I previously complained about her in my previous reviews, and I'm very pleased with how she turned out. I hope she continues to grow and stay interesting, because she absolutely was interesting. A standout secondary character was Queen Margaise. Seemingly doomed, but not helpless. Very sympathetic character. Actually, a lot of you could draw a lot of parallels to being in an abusive relationship and the victim finally freeing herself from this abusive relationship and trying to come into her own. I think, very powerful stuff. You can sneer all you want about this being a fantasy novel from a series that started in the 80s and all that, but still, that's how you cover those themes, I think. I just thought it was great. I did not expect it at all. And overall, my other positive point is, so when you have a book that moves so fast with this enormity of its cast and plot threads, you'd think that a soft landing would be counterproductive. And to expand on this, I'm not saying the ending was not exciting, that it was not filled with battle and that the build-up did not deliver. No, I'm just saying that a lot of it was internal as much as external. There was a lot of internal turmoil. For example, when Raven was battling Rand and the others. You could see that he was expecting to die. You could also see Nynaeve also having all these doubts about her, trying to heal Rand. There is so much stuff happening around internally within characters that the last chapter was very, well, calm after the storm, but still, it was kind of a very precise ending, I thought. An analogy would be, I think, and this is a very strange analogy, but bear with me. So, those huge, what are they called? Carriers, ships that have planes on them. So, to be able to lift off in a very fast manner, in a very precise manner, and to land on this very limited space in the middle of the ocean, and to do it elegantly and not crash. I think that's sort of a very difficult thing to pull off, and Robert Jordan pulled it off. Heads up for that. It's really impressive when you think from just a writing standpoint. Let's now move on to the things I didn't care for all that much. Elaine. I'm sorry to say, but Elaine. It would be disingenuous to say that she is regressing. I don't think she's regressing. It's that she sort of started to develop, but then when she went on this trip with Nynaeve, it's like she's going through this character loop and she's stuck in it, and I just don't understand what's going on with her character. This whole thing with her having daddy issues and having a thing for Thom and all of that, and just it's like Egwene and Elaine switched places with character development. Egwene just soared into the skies, becoming this very interesting person to read about, and Elaine just being stuck in, oh Rand, I don't want to think about you. Oh, I do want to think about you, but here is this guy who I vaguely remember from my childhood, and I have a apparently thing for, and it's just stuck. The wheels are spinning. No pun intended with her. But something that I wanted to acknowledge is I'm usually the kind of person that I would not be almost ever be interested in the author's notes or outlines. But in Robert Jordan's case, I'd actually be interesting. And not about plot so much as characters, I think, because the more I think about it, the more I cannot unravel which characters did he plan to merge, which characters were products of just fulfilling a certain plot role. He needed a person that moved the plot forward, but then he created a character, and then there was an expectancy of developing this character more. And how much did he deviate in the writing process? How much did characters kind of came to life on their own? It's like, oh, I wrote this character and I don't know, for example, I wrote this character of, maybe that's a wrong example, of Telenvor. He is this loyalist officer who wants to help his queen, but then chemistry between him and Queen Morghese happened, and then you have a fully fleshed character with motivations and wants and needs and life of their own. So I hope to know how much did that happen, if ever? I do not know how much of an outliner or a so-called pantser improviser Robert Jordan was as a writer. But that would be it for what I liked. Let's move on to predictions. Now, predictions. Predictions for the next book. It's been a while since the White Cloaks made any kind of significant move. What they did in Two Rivers was major for our characters, but I do believe that it was comparatively small scale to what they're actually capable of. So will they mount some kind of large attack? I don't think so. Will they attempt some kind of a subterfuge? Yeah, probably. I do still consider them being completely, well, not useless, but just dangerous fools, but dangerous nonetheless. Another prediction that I have is kind of an obvious one. Perrin will be much more of a focus. His married life will fill a lot of pages. To be honest, I'm dreading Fail and her being insufferable a bit. I hope she is not insufferable. I mean, who knows? Maybe Fail becomes one of my favorite characters down the line. As it stands, she is one of my least favorite characters. More Shanchan would be nice. They are another major player, and they are what I would call a dark horse of factions, especially because there are so many major characters like the Tower or White Cloaks or even Aiel who do not see Shanchan as a major threat. They don't conceive them as a threat, and they very much are. Unlike White Cloaks, they are dangerous, they're very well organized, they have sort of a very unified culture, and there is no telling of what they might attempt to do. And my last prediction is in regards to Queen Morghese. Morghese and her quest to regain her throne, I think, will be touched upon, but maybe not in the next book, maybe in the book that comes after Lord of Chaos, so maybe in the book after that. And I think it goes without saying, but I'll say it nevertheless, that the implied romance between her and Talonwar will happen at some point. I think during their maybe some kind of revolutionary war or something like that. Who knows? Verdict. Well, my verdict towards this book. To conclude, the quality of writing, characterization, the brisk pace, despite its length, it all made for a very enjoyable installment in the series. One thing that I want to address, and I think really needs to be said, is there were several chapters with more than 3 points of view. Some of them I think even had 6 or 7. And usually that would be disastrous for a writer, and especially for a reader if you have to read this and just jump around between these POVs. But Jordan pulls it off. And as a result, this is the closest to a page turner with Wheel of Time so far. I don't think the previous books were page turners, which doesn't mean that they were not interesting or engaging or made me more eager to read this, to stay up late and things like that. No. But the quality, when something is a page turner, it's hard to describe, because there are kind of a guilty pleasure reads, if you can call them that are sort of page turners, and after you read them you feel like, why did I do that? Why did I read this trashy novel? But I don't think there is anything trashy about Wheel of Time. It's just the combination of characters and plot really made for a good page turn. And I'm going to stop my rambling now. First I would like to thank Ethan for his continued support on Patreon. Thank you, Ethan. If any of you guys are interested for chopping down a tip on Patreon, I will be very grateful, but it's not obligatory. I'm doing this out of love for reading and because books are my kind of a primary source of entertainment. As a side note, how are you guys feeling about recent casting news? I saw that they cast Loyal, which is someone I also want to see in the next book, but it's not about who they cast. I'm interested in how will they pull this off, because apart from who was it, Emily Blunt, I think, I do not know a single actor that they cast. So I wonder, will they use a lot of makeup for Loyal, a lot of prosthetics? I would prefer prosthetics, of course, but he's so incredibly tall. What is he? He's like 7 feet. That he will stand out and needs to stand out, because a lot of the scenes work. There are a lot of, I wouldn't say physical comedy, but physical interaction where people mistake him for a Trolloc and things like that. It would be very jarring if they do the Trolloc CGI and do him in makeup. But then again, I mean, it's Amazon, they have the means to do it right? So, and as another aside, if you guys are interested in choose your own adventure games, I guess they're games, I have another channel that I'll be linking below, on which I just play choose your own adventure books, like fighting fantasy, various silly text adventures. There's a one that I just got that I'll be playing soon. It's like a humorous retelling of Hamlet, and you can play as, well, you can play as other characters other than Hamlet, which creates kind of this almost Rosencrantz and Guildenstern narrative. So if you're interested in that, please give it a look. Otherwise, have a good one and see you soon. Bye bye.